Right now on Denver 7 News at 6 a.m., new details in a horrific crash that killed a Colorado college student.
This kind of tragedy it's just not something you can make sense of.
I'm Denver 7's Veronica ACOSTA. This morning, we're hearing from some of the people who knew this Colorado golfer with a big heart the best.
Plus, in less than an hour, President Biden will question China's relationship with Russia as it seems to be changing its attack strategy in Ukraine.
The fact that China has not denounced what Russia is doing in and of itself speaks volumes.
And an annual Colorado tradition with an unusual name kicks off today. We'll explain the story behind Netherlands' Frozen Dead Guy Days. That's one of the more morbid events you can enjoy this weekend. There are a lot of others, too, that we're going to tell you about. So good Friday morning to you. I'm Nicole Brady.
And I'm Jessica Crawford. The snow's cleared out and a weekend warm-up is here. Lisa?
A little chilly this morning, though. As soon as skies cleared out overnight, we saw those temperatures start to drop. So you're stepping out the door mainly to teens and 20s. Denver right now 24, Broomfield 27. Same thing there in Boulder. A little bit colder up and through the foothills where we picked up a lot of snow, over a foot with this most recent storm. Evergreen 13 right now, Conifer 16. As your kids head out to school on this Friday morning, we're going to be in the low to upper 20s, mostly sunny skies. We'll see just a few increasing clouds this afternoon and right around 50 degrees by the time they get home. So some really pleasant conditions, even a touch warmer north near Fort Collins and Greeley. For the mountains, it's 30s and over the high mountain passes today. Dry today, dry tomorrow, but the mountains will start to see more snow, it looks like, Sunday late day. We'll be tracking our next storm, and I'll show you what we're expecting here in town with this as more kids start spring break next week. Colette coming up.
Oh, more spring break. And Lisa, I'm taking us out to Glenwood Springs right now with a live look at the Grand Avenue Bridge right there. It's dry in Glenwood, but there is a problem on our roadways. I want to take a look at our map. Out there on 70, blocking the right lane in the eastbound lanes between 114 and 121. So in case you are out there, just a heads up. Now taking you back into the metro, there is a crash blocking the right lane of 70 eastbound at Wadsworth and Arvada. Here's a live look from one of our CDOT cameras right now. You can see those flashing lights down there. That is where the actual crash is. So if you're headed that direction this morning, you want to make sure and take it slow. Give those first responders some space as they do work to clear that. And now one more look at our map. There's a couple of construction projects. That Central 70 project that we've been telling you about all week, and then 17th closed in both directions.
Well, we have just learned a 13-year-old was driving the truck that killed a Westminster College student and his teammates in a horrific crash in Texas.
And Jackson Zinn, whose young life was cut short, leaves behind a big legacy. Denver 7's Veronica ACOSTA is hearing from one of the people who knew him best, his pastor.
He was the person that made you feel better if you were around him. Just one of the many ways Jackson Zinn's pastor described him to us. A young man who he said was fun, loved interacting with those around him, and of course loved his mom, his dad, and his sisters.
He was bigger than life. I mean, he was just a loving, compassionate, driven, competitive, wonderful young man. You'll be hard pressed to find anything about him that isn't positive.
And Rick Long, who you just heard from there, is the lead pastor at Grace Church. He says Jackson's parents actually called him about Jackson's death Tuesday at 3 in the morning. He said he stayed on that phone call with those parents, listening, crying, and praying with them. They talked about his love for golf, the bond that built that between him and his dad. Despite being broken about Jackson's death, Long said the family took the time to reminisce about their son and brother. And now he said it's time for that ministry to step up to support Jackson's family as they navigate what comes next, because he said the real challenge in loving people comes after that memorial, and that memorial service is being planned for Jackson at Grace Church. That's over in Arvada. That's going to be held this weekend. In studio, I'm Veronica ACOSTA, Denver 7.
Thank you, Veronica. Today, Boulder County leaders will go to court with the group suing the county over how they chose the Marshall Fire cleanup contractor. The group is no longer standing in the way of the county signing a contract with that Louisiana-based company. However, the group still wants more information about the steps leaders took to decide on that particular company. Another community group that protested the lawsuit over the weekend is also filing a motion in the case, going on the record to say they want a contract executed soon so the debris cleanup can finally begin. Time is running out for Marshall Fire victims to apply for disaster assistance. Boulder County set March 31st as the last day to apply. This is for people whose homes were damaged or destroyed, or for people who were displaced because of smoke or ash contamination. The county will distribute financial aid by appointment through April 22nd. You can find a link to apply on Boulder County's website.
Well, turning now to the war in Ukraine, in less than an hour, President Biden is scheduled to tell his Chinese counterpart to not assist Russia in any way or risk sanctions. Overnight, Russia fired 6 missiles at the western city of Lviv. The city is near the Polish border and has been relatively untouched by Russian attacks. Ukraine's military says of the 6 missiles fired, it intercepted 2. Lviv has become the main gathering place for displaced Ukrainians. An estimated 200,000 people who fled their homes have moved into the city, hoping to eventually make their way to the border. U.S. officials say Ukraine's military resistance is stalling Russian troops from advancing on the ground. Russian troops haven't made any progress advancing towards Ukraine's capital, Kyiv, since last Friday. Now the Kremlin is relying on longer-range missile systems in order to do damage across the country. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he agrees with President Biden that Russia is committing war crimes by intentionally targeting civilians. He worries Moscow might be setting the stage to use a chemical weapon and will falsely blame Ukraine to justify escalating its attacks. Well, this morning we're hearing from a Colorado man and his Ukrainian wife who are staying in Lviv now. Joe and Dasha Ramers have been helping others with food, transportation, and housing. Well, they spoke with CNN last night. Dasha's parents and grandmother are in Mariupol, in an area that has been heavily targeted by Russians. Well, this week, Russians bombed a theater there being used as a shelter for hundreds. They spoke to Dasha's dad.
So we know that they're fine the moment we talk to them, and then after that we wait until we hear from them again. But when we talked to him yesterday, he said it was a miracle that God was protecting them, but it's a miracle that they're all still alive.
Dasha's family is staying in a church in Mariupol where they are caring for some of the elderly who couldn't leave. Dasha says she's proud to be Ukrainian and proud of all of those who are fighting for their country.
The State Board of Education voted unanimously to deny the Adams 14 School District an extension to present an improvement plan. The district now has until April 14th to prepare that. At that point, the board could vote to close Adams City High School and reorganize the troubled district. This comes on the heels of a state review that found lower enrollment and a culture of fear of retaliation has limited student achievement and that drastic changes are needed. A representative and lawyer for Adams 14 told Denver 7 they believe the state's review is one-sided. They say a consulting firm that led the district until February should be blamed. The free lunch is coming to an end. The federal government is allowing a pandemic-era program to expire. So Jeffco Schools is urging families who qualify to apply for free and reduced school meals. That application will open this summer. Now, even though the federal government will no longer pay for free meals for all kids, state lawmakers are working on a bill that would fund school lunches for all children. That bill passed another key legislative panel yesterday. If the bill is signed into law, the free meals wouldn't be available in Colorado until the 2023-24 school year.
Well, if you're looking for something to do this weekend, look no further than the Frozen Dead Guy Days in Netherlands.
Yeah. If you're not familiar, if you're new to Colorado, sounds a little weird, but there's a story behind it.
Frozen Dead Guy Days is a celebration of a man named Bredo Mastel, who is actually cryogenically frozen in a tough shed above Netherlands, Colorado. He was a Norwegian mid-level politician, and when he passed away, he was transferred to California, cryogenically frozen, and then moved to Netherlands, where his nephew and sister were living.
And he is still on ice in that tough shed. The Frozen Dead Guy Days includes coffin races, concerts, frozen turkey bowling, polar plunges, and other events as well. The festival is tonight through Sunday. You can buy tickets online at frozendeadguydays.com. Hopefully it doesn't get too warm to thaw him out though this weekend, Lisa.
Let's keep him frozen, yeah. Take a look at our wake-up forecast. It is going to warm up though, but Netherlands being one of the spots that picked up some really heavy snow, well over a foot with this most recent storm. Now here in town, your wake-up forecast, we're right around freezing by 9 o'clock. It'll be a much nicer warm up for us though today. Low 40s by lunch, closer to 50 for a high today. Even warmer Saturday and Sunday. We have a look at that plus our next storm when it's going to hit coming up in just a few minutes.
So we're getting a better look at that crash I was telling you guys about there in Arvada on 70 eastbound blocking that left lane. Now we know it was a semi truck involved in that with a collapsed trailer bed. This is Air Tracker 7 over that scene right now. If you are driving in that area, take it slow, make sure and give a lot of space for those first responders. Slow down and move over. It is a very important law, especially in some of these cold, dark conditions this morning. But I'll have a look at all your drive times through the metro. Everything else looking pretty good this morning.
Well, prices are rising for nearly everything. Now experts predict when inflation will peak here in Colorado. Plus, there is one more month to file your taxes, so look at ways to increase your refund.
As more school districts go on spring break, we're helping you come up with some ideas for a staycation. I'll take you behind the scenes at the Denver Zoo and the new exhibits you'll find.